So as with many things in the Restoration, there's good evidence that plural marriage was revealed to Joseph Smith very early and only fully put into practice much later. In the early 1830s, Joseph Smith was doing his own translation or prophetic revision of the Bible. And so naturally he starts at the beginning of the Old Testament, he starts with Genesis. And as he's going through Genesis, one of the things that he sees is that many of the Genesis patriarchs, so for instance including Abraham, whom the Bible calls the father of the faithful, and Jacob, or Israel, right, founder of the house of Israel, these men practiced polygamy. They had multiple wives. And so this naturally would have made Joseph Smith reflect on why. Was this okay with God? And if it was, what was the purpose of it? And so we have indications from various people who knew Joseph Smith during his lifetime that this was a period when he not only encountered polygamy in the Bible, but he asked God for revelation about it. So Joseph B. Noble, a friend of Joseph's in Nauvoo and a bodyguard of his, is one person who tells us that Joseph had polygamy revealed to him in 1831 as a result of doing his prophetic revision of Genesis. That work with Genesis results in Joseph asking God about polygamy. God reveals it to him, reveals to him that he's going to need to practice it, and that others will need to practice it as well. William W. Phelps, a very significant early Latter-day Saint, wrote a number of hymns that are in the present-day hymn book. Phelps also says that Joseph had polygamy revealed to him in the early 1830s. Phelps was around in the early 1830s, and as early as 1831, hears about one of Joseph's revelations on plural marriage from him at the time. Like Helen Mar Kimball, who was one of his plural wives, she also notes that plural marriage was revealed to him as early as 1831. And then kind of a related question to, there is a sort of perspective where people say, well, Joseph Smith was practicing polygamy before it was revealed, or he's having relationships with women before polygamy is revealed, and then they think that maybe polygamy is an idea that he comes up with afterward as a kind of justification for those relationships. So again, since we have evidence that he knows about a doctrine of polygamy as early as 1831, that idea is incorrect. But one of the other indications that we have that this idea is incorrect is that when we look at the best evidence, the emerging evidence on when Joseph was married to his earliest known plural wife, Fanny Alger, this marriage occurred in 1836. By 1836, Joseph had revelations on plural marriage, and there are a number of indications of this. There's even a mention in the 1835 Doctrine and Covenants that the issue of polygamy had been raised in the church. And so we know that polygamy was already on people's minds before Joseph Smith has his first documented plural marriage. A similar kind of question to when Joseph first has polygamy revealed to him is that people will say, well, why is Joseph Smith entering into plural marriages before the sealing power is restored? So since Latter-day Saints believe that marriages ideally are supposed to be done by sealing power that makes them last for eternity, and this idea is very much linked to the Latter-day Saint practice of plural marriage, why is he going into these, his first plural marriages before that sealing power is restored? Well, in fact, it appears he's not. So the earliest documented plural wife of Joseph Smith that we know of is Fanny Alger. And the evidence that I've written about this previously that demonstrate that actually that marriage occurred in 1836 in the months after Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery were visited by the biblical prophet Elijah, who brought those sealing keys. So it's quite clear actually that polygamy is revealed before Joseph goes into it, and that it even appears that the sealing power itself is restored before Joseph goes into polygamy.